Hello, welcome to the channel. I'm the self-proclaimed Blue Dragon. This is an art channel targeting an adult audience, and I usually primarily discuss things regarding my free not safe for work webcomic Dark Horse, links down in the description, but I also talk about other different types of projects that I work on as well. In this video, I'm going to be, as you can see in the background, discussing my little delve into vector art for my submission to the Erratia Beat TGIF the 90s zine, which the Kickstarter's getting ready to start. Oh my gosh, so excited. And also like a little pizza logo thing that I worked on for the last page of my submission. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this. By the way, this is not a tutorial video. I'm just kind of talking about my experience, and actually, yeah, I'm probably going to try to learn more about vectors. For those of you who don't know what a vector is, I'm going to give a quick definition. And I'm going with the Encyclopaedia Britannica definition. And this is not paraphrase, I'm just reading it off. I'll do like citation down in the description and in the end of the video. But vector graphics, mathematically based computer image format. Mathematically based, that'll tell you something. Essentially, vector graphics, composed of lines defined by mathematical formulas, were first used in computer displays in the 1960s and 70s. The displays were essentially modified oscilloscopes, and vector graphics were used because the memory that would be needed for displaying raster graphics or bitmap graphics was too expensive. Vector graphics were also used in early arcade games such as Asteroids. By the 1980s, raster graphics, which used dots called pixels to create an image, had all but replaced vector graphic displays. So essentially, vectors are images that are broken down to like their numbers, their mathematical equations, so that whenever you enlarge or shrink down, unlike with pixels where you will oftentimes get that pixelation if you do that too many times back and forth, it's essentially keeping track of the scaling based on a mathematical equation. And I decided to use vectors, primarily the pen tool and the smart object tools in Photoshop CS5, because there were going to be times when I needed to shrink down or enlarge some of my images. And when it comes to text, like I do hand ink some of the text for the cover of How I Spent My Vacation, which is the 90s spoof magical girl submission that I did for Erratia Beat. But for the main cover text, the Dark Horse title for my comic, and Vacation, I decided that I wasn't going to be able to hand draw that very well, and I needed to be able to resize it without things getting any of those artifacts showing up around the outside of the graphic text. I'm not working on the Dark Horse part in the background. By this point, I'm working on Vacation because I'd already kind of done some studying, watched some tutorials. Links are down in the description, by the way, for Pix Imperfect and another video that I'm going to talk about in just a minute. How to design letter C logo, because oh my god, I had so much trouble with the letter C, y'all. I thought I would be able to get a better font and text and be able to play around with things better if I did this in the computer rather than trying to do it by hand. The letter C, I want to talk about the letter C because when it came to like the V and the A, like all the letters in Dark Horse and for Vacation, those were very easy to create. I was using the pen tool based on the tutorial video Master the Pen Tool, which is by Pix Imperfect. Again, that's going to be down in the description. I'm going to have a link to that because it is super helpful. Very, he breaks down what everything is. He tells you a bit about shortcuts that you really need to know to make your life easier. And he's also got his brow shaped into like a perfect M. And it's just mesmerizing. I'm not criticizing the dude, but it did really help me pay attention because I was like, whoa, did he totally manscape his brows to the letter M? Yes, he did. Kudos for having the balls to do that, dude. Okay, anyway, again, I'm not making fun. I actually thought it was very clever. Very clever. It doesn't look too bad, you know, if that's your thing. Yeah, I didn't have quite as much trouble using the pen tool. Normally, if you're going to like do vector images and stuff, it's really probably more advisable to do that in Illustrator, but I have a bad history with Illustrator, and I was in a hurry for this project because I had so much to do. I mean, and by the time I was getting around to working on the word vacation, I had saved the worst for last because I needed to get as much of the art itself done as possible, as quickly as possible, with the best quality as possible. And I was just kind of stalling. I was like, let me get this stuff done and out of the way and then work on the word vacation. You know, when I started working on the letter C, I'm not sure, I don't think I recorded my struggle in this video, but I was trying to use the pen tool, and it was just not happening. I struggled, I got angry, I had to walk away, and eventually I looked up a tutorial because I just could not get the angle right with the pen tool, no matter how many times I converted corners to curves and vice versa. It just wasn't doing what I wanted it to do, so I ended up having to go to another video just because I was in such a hurry. And this was like kind of a breakthrough for me, because I had never even thought about using shapes, like using the shape tool, which are smart objects, they are vectors. I never even thought about using them to make letters. So like the letter C, I'd already created the O. As much as I could, I reused pen tool vector lines that I had already created. I'm probably using the wrong terminology for that, but pathways, I guess, pathways. I reused those as much as possible. But for some letters, I did have to actually, work on them. And for the letter C, it's really easy. I was doing it like the hardest way possible. And so I just ended up taking the O, because that's what this other tutorial that's down in the description demonstrated. And then I just made a triangle with the smart object, and then I just highlighted the part that I needed to add a stroke weight to in order to form the letter, as well as using the fill so that I could have the inside white as it needed to be for this specific word. And from there, it was so easy. And I just ended up, instead of messing around with the pen tool, aside from the letter N, I did use the pen tool for the letter N as opposed to the smart objects, but I used the shapes just to make the T and the I for vacation. And I just want to kind of say this was a victory for me, because in the past, no offense to my graphic design professor, I only ever had one class in graphic design when I was in college. They didn't really have a lot to offer where I went when it came to graphic design, and like the time period I was working, and the school was more focused on wanting to become the political branch of the U of I system. But yeah, the art program unfortunately suffered as a result of that, as many art programs do at universities that are smaller. So I didn't really learn how to use Illustrator very well, or how to use the pen tool even, which I really feel has been kind of, if I'd known how to use this and gotten to use this and know how to work with the program more, I feel like I could have been doing a lot more with like my art. How much am I going to employ this for my comic? I mean, I don't know. We'll see. I don't know, but it is, I think, a handy tool to have in your back pocket to know how to use vectors and how to create images. So I'm going to move from talking about graphic text and, using the pen tool, and talking about a logo that I created for the very last panel of my submission of this little short story, this one shot, How I Spent My Vacation. I took what I learned from using the graphic shapes and stuff. I took that and I kind of applied it to this pizza time logo, which is just something that I mean, it's not very clever, but it's what I made up for the restaurant that the girls go to at the very end of the story. Let's talk about why I picked pizza. I really just want to show a bunch of clips of 90s pizza stuff. So yeah, in the 90s, pizza was like the go-to food. I'm sure it is still now, but it was like just kind of pounded into your brain, pizza, pizza, pizza. I'm going to fade out for just a moment, let you enjoy these for a minute, and then we'll be back and I'll talk about what I actually do with like this pizza logo.
The Book It program from Pizza Hut encourages kids to read by giving them their favorite food, pizza.
Here's some news the Noid won't like. Really? This marshmallow and asparagus topping is truly awesome.
Ah, pizza!
Yep.
Again!
Pepperoni.
And if you want the full effect, go eat a piece of pie.
I hate to say it, but I think I enjoy this processed cheese. What kind of...
The nice thing about working on this logo is that it made me like kind of simplify things in my mind a little bit. I'm someone who really likes to kind of hyper focus on detail. I like to hatch, I like to stipple, I like to do things like that with my dip pen. But since I was making this logos, I mean, they can be complex, but I just wanted this to be kind of fun and look very 90s. I didn't want to like overcomplicate it, essentially. So I only work with like a couple colors, bright colors. When I tackled this, I didn't really look at anyone else's logo. I just got to work kind of trying to be creative myself. I put my crosshairs in so that I could center things and make sure everything was where it was supposed to be. And then I just thought about what are the shapes? What are the simplest shapes that I can use to create a pizza design? So I use the Circle Smart object, obviously. That's what I use the most of, just for the crust, the cheese, the pepperonis. And I was kind of proud of myself when it came to like designing the toppings for the pizza. I know, I sound so... anyone looking at this is going to be like, this isn't all that great, but I was very proud of myself because I was kind of moving outside of my box, my comfort zone. Outside of my box. I live in a box, y'all. Actually, if you think about it, we all just live inside boxes of varying sizes. Anyway, I digress. A little goofy. The first topping outside of the pepperonis that I decided to tackle was putting on mushroom slices. My personal favorite pizzas, by the way, for anyone who didn't ask. I personally, obviously, I would have a vegan cheese on it, or like tofu dollops. I'm really not picky, but mushrooms and red onions are like my go-to. Because I'm cheap, I usually don't go any more than like 2 toppings, but if I've got the opportunity for more toppings, it's red onion, mushroom, and black olives. But yeah, so I do the mushroom first, and I was kind of proud of how I was able to simplify what this mushroom would look like. It actually kind of looks like a whole mushroom on there, but I essentially just like made an oval, then I made a smaller oval of a different color, and then I just used a rectangle for the stem. And from there I just kind of copy and pasted and put them around, made them a couple different colors. The red onion was the next one that I tackled, and again I wanted to keep things simple, so I was like, well, is there a shape that I could use that's already existing in the library of the smart objects? So I went up into there and I found like the crescent moon, and I just kind of warped it a little bit using the transform tool and the warp option, and it made it look enough not like a crescent moon, kind of like a piece of onion that you've cut kind of thin, like a slice of it. And I kind of scattered those around, and I was really happy with how it looked by that point. I continued using smart tools for the rest of the pizza. I wanted the idea with like this Pizza Time logo was just obviously to be a clock, because it's pizza o'clock. It's always time for pizza at pizza time. God, I could like create this whole thing. No, just kidding. Nobody would shop there. Nobody would go there. But yeah, I took the arrow shape and just kind of transformed those also, made them pointing where I wanted. I thought 5 o'clock would be a great time to have pizza. I don't know. And then from there, the visual part of the logo was almost complete. After completing like the pizza image, the clock pizza, time is just dripping away on this vertically set pizza clock. Anyway, the only thing left to work on was to do the text for the logo, the name of the restaurant. So I just used the pen tool again, and I wanted everything to be really jagged, like a very 90s feeling. I feel it's very 90s feeling. And then kind of last minute, I was like, whoa, wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be cute to have like a little slice of pizza in like the P and the A? So I made like a little baby pizza inside there. And yeah, that's essentially all, that's the design. I mean, it was very easy to do the logo because it was all sharp edges. I wanted the logo text to be very chaotic and sharp, kind of like how they would like advertise to kids, back in the day. It was like cool because it doesn't care. You know what I mean? I don't know what I mean. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, I added the drop shadow and that completed the logo. I'm gonna show the logo here at the end. Actually, I'll have images of like the vectors and the logo. Really fun project. I learned so much from this Eradia Beat project, seriously. Thank you all so much for watching the Eradia Kickstarter. Oh my gosh, we're getting really close. Please, please, please make sure you're looking down in the description because that's where I'm gonna have it. And then whenever the Kickstarter is live, I will make a special video advertising it because we really need your support. This is going to be so freaking cool. Like, I just got done working on some merch for the different tiers and like looking at other people's merch and the artwork, the patches, the buttons, there's wallpapers, there's all kinds of cool stuff that's like additional things for like higher tiers on the Kickstarter. So please keep an eye out in the description. This is going to be such a cool zine. Like I've seen everybody else's submissions. I've read one of the stories. There's activities and stuff. It is so freaking cool. There's like a quiz. There's find your magical girl or magical person mascot. It is so cool. So please check the description. I will be making an announcement when it's live. Otherwise, see y'all next week. Unless the Kickstarter starts, in which case I'll be having a sooner video. Peace and love. Fare you well. And keep on trucking. You know, the part that I wanted to be stroked, or